Good evening, everyone, and welcome to all of our guests tonight. I'll call the meeting of the special common council meeting for the city of Marshfield for Tuesday, January 25th order. I see that everyone is here, so we won't do a roll call. Mr. Fire is joining us via Zoom. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item C is what brings us here tonight, a presentation and report on the conceptual plans for a possible shared site involving the City of Marshfield Public Works Garage and the Wood County Highway Department, located on a 17-acre parcel on South Galvin Avenue, and be introduced by Dan Connect, Director of Public Works, and presented by staff from Barrientos Design and Consulting. Dan.
Thank you. First, I'd like to welcome our friends from the county. We have representatives here from the Wood County Highway Department, both staff and highway committee members. And we have members from the Wood County Sheriff's Department and from the Public Safety Committee. Welcome. And we have with us County Board Chair Lance Plimmels with us as well. So thanks for joining us tonight. Just a little background before I have Norman come up and give the presentation. Back in 2020, the city undertook a space needs study at our current city garage site, which is just a few blocks to the north of us here. And we've operated on that site on West 2nd Street since the 1940s. There's obviously been improvements to that site over the years, but we really haven't had an opportunity for some long-range planning on that site for a long time. So this was an effort to begin some long-range planning and seeing what the future of a city garage could look like. So Norman presented the results of that study back in August of 2020. It wasn't a surprise, I suppose, that our 5.8 acre site there was too small for a modern facility, that our facilities were not up to current standards, and that there's many areas where we're lacking the benefits that a new modern facility could provide for us. And the recommendation that came out of that space needs study was that the city should consider a new site for the city garage. Then in spring of 2021, we started a discussion with Wood County Highway Department. Roland called me up and said, hey, we're thinking about some improvements on our site. Heard you're looking at something for your site. Is there an opportunity for us to work together? So that led us back to Norman. And then in July of 2021, Norman kicked off a study for us of a shared site on the Wood County property on Galvin Avenue, just on our southeast side of town here. When Sheriff Becker heard about that, he thought that was a good idea, and he wanted to get involved in it. So now we also have the Sheriff's Department looking at a satellite site here as well. So with that background, I'd like to introduce Norman with Barrientos, and he will go through the report. If I can get it up on the screen. Okay.
Thank you. Good afternoon and good to be back here. And as Dan said, we had finished the study back in 2020, and we've been called back to look at this combined facility between the two municipalities. And what we looked at is how much could we mix the facilities and what that mean. And so we had 3 levels of integration that we discussed in our study. One was level 1, where they're on the same land, but they have separate buildings and separate areas they function in. It's like you could almost demise the parcel in 2. As we discussed further, level 1 became, well, we could be closer together, our buildings nearby, and start sharing some facilities, which we started talking about. That could be the salt area, the salt brine, the truck wash, and the fueling as well. Then level 2 is where the 2 agencies are sharing a physical demising wall, and they're back to back with each other, and they're one building, and the yard is more mixed as well too, and they're sharing all the same things: salt, brine, truck wash, fueling on the site, and sharing some of the site developments like the fencing, gates, and other stormwater development issues. Level 3 was where the two groups are really mixed in throughout the whole facility and in the building. They're sharing locker rooms and lunch rooms and training rooms, common entry. And so as I go through, that's how we looked at the study. And this is really more of a feasibility. And so I'm going to go back to where we started with, as Dan mentioned, when we back in 2020, looking at the existing city garage and what goes into that. Obviously, I'm assume you're familiar with what goes into that, but we have the truck parking, we have repair garage, we have crew quarters, locker room, lunchrooms, showers, we have office areas, we have lots of parts storage for vehicles, bulk storage for construction items, and then reserve parts, and you have fueling and some kind of truck wash. And then there's always other departments that store material on site as well. So, and as Dan said, the 5.8 acre site next to your downtown and the recreational field was really, we just couldn't fit the modern updated program on this site. And what we came out of that was this optimal garage plan of the main garage. And this is a 75,000 square foot facility. And you're seeing on top is a truck wash drive-through where there would be an underbody wash in that. And then you're seeing a parking bay where you have at the top medium duty trucks, heavy duty trucks, and then light duty trucks. And it would have the full complement of floor drains and ventilation. And then off the parking, off to the right here, there would be a repair bay, which is at this point the most deficient area operationally that you have in your garage, both in terms of height, width, and equipment, but also the number of bays as well. And then having a welding fabrication area that's off the repair bay, but separated for all the smoke and noise that's generated out of that, and also the amount of equipment they have, like grinders and welders, steel stock. And then here we have a parts area. I'm sorry, that's a sign shop. The parts area is here in this, and I'm going through this because in our other developments, it follows the same relationships. We have the parts area, which in essence, a UPS or a vendor would come and load off parts here, mainly for vehicle parts. They'd be stocked and then distributed to the mechanics, or they'd be distributed to the field operators backside. Then the green area is the crew area, lunchroom area or assembly, locker rooms for men and women with showers. And safety training would be conducted inside the assembly area as well. And then the upfront offices, obviously for the director and later on for engineering was integrated. So that's 75,000 square feet. And during that study, we developed an optimal site plan. If we had sufficient land and the right configuration, we would like 10 acres for this site and ideally be rectangular and ideally have two entrances where the trucks could flow in and they could park or they could wash or they could circulate over to salt or pick up items in cold storage and then circulate out. And then the staff and visitors and vendors would come another way and park and come into their areas, crew quarters or admin or parts. So that's the general layout. And then off to the side, there's always bulk stock items, culverts, pipes, castings, soils. Some of these are put into bins. And what's key here is getting the right amount of space for the trucks to move around and back up and the right kind of area for them, be it gravel or stockpiled bins, or just asphalt areas. And then stormwater is another area too that has to be addressed in the new one. The other item is a fuel station, and we want to put the fuel station like you have now where non-streets trucks could come in and go throughout the day, anytime. So, and not get into the yard of the facility. So that was the optimal. Now, for the highway Wood County Highway Shop, they have this 18-acre site on Galvin and East 21st Street. And there is a junkyard here, and then next to the south, and there's a business park to the north. Here's the highway. And as Dan said, And what I learned too later on is that the county does not fully utilize this site. And they have been discussing adding on or improving their current garage, which they have here right now. And that houses, I'll go through the program on that, but it needs to be expanded. They have their salt shed, they have fuel station, truck scale, and another cold storage shed. And then they use the stockpiler here. They are doing some stormwater improvements right back here right now. And they've got their main entrance off of South Galvin Avenue here. And so they don't fully utilize the site. So again, they use up about 8 acres. Here we have 10 acres. They don't use of the 18 acres. And that's just the amount that the streets has been looking for. So far the puzzle came together pretty well. The next step was, well, could it all fit? Can we get both highway and streets together here? And that's where we started diving into what's there right now. That's the county's main garage there. And again, you know, they have their main shop in Wisconsin Rapids, and that's where they have all their repair shops. They only do certain things here, mainly truck storage, minor truck maintenance, just field parts storage. So it's a satellite shop. That's the building. It's about 50 years old. It's a steel building. And they have facilities for salt brine, some cold storage, their salt shed. And, but the county has expressed an interest in, with this coming together, that they would just convert this into cold storage, no longer try to make it a heated truck barn. I'm not going to go through all the numbers, but what we did is we sat down and interviewed the county's staff and took their facility needs for how much staff they have by function and identified their staffing. They have 26 people located here. The city has a total of 55. And I have the different departments there, and it broke it up by different positions, mainly so we could also identify the number of lockers and people that are going to be sitting in the assembly area. We also took the county's truck and fleet count and divided those up into different kind of parking stalls, heavy, medium, and light, and others. So they're bringing in a total of 32 vehicles, of which 28 are heavy, a lot of the patrol plow trucks. And then the city has a much larger fleet count, 117. Here's a graphic of the two agencies' fleets. This is the county's, the city's fleet. And on the other side is the county's fleet. Just you see all the trucks lined up that we're going to try to park in this. Then, let's see, sorry. What this is doing is, if we combine the facilities, we came up with a main building of 125,000 square feet for both. And that's the parking, repair garage, truck wash, part storage, crew area, and office area, and sign shop. That building would now be 125. Individually, we had the city's building being, if they're apart, at 73,000 square feet, and for the county at 37,000. Now that's our target based on room by room estimates. Once we get to the floor plans, they shift as the geometry finally worked out. And then we have various cold storage buildings too that they both need. So option one is level integration 2, where they're going to share various facilities on the site. And in the end, we ended up having all the options share various facilities for the most leverage and usage of these between the two agencies. And I'm actually just going to jump to the floor plan of this. So what you're seeing here is Galvin, 21st. You're seeing the county's existing garage, which would turn into cold storage. This would become the city's cold storage. Over here, we would continue building and expanding the salting area where it is. So that would stay, and this back area would stay as stockpiling. That's the new stormwater pond. So the city and the county would share this back area, although this would be again, the city's cold storage building. Then over here, what you're seeing is the city's building, their main garage, and then the county's main garage over here. And then this entry off Galvin would be for fueling. That'd be a shared facility. There'd be a truck wash they would drive through, also shared facility, and then a truck scale. And from there, we worked out the various circulation patterns of which way the city trucks would go, the county trucks. Some could come off of 21st as well and park in, or some could come in from this way. Having the site on a corner like that is excellent. Want to have those options to come and go and entrance from two different angles. This one breaks up the parking for the county having its own parking for staff and visitors, and then the city, and this is the county's parking over here. So that's option one. And these are the floor plans. I'm not going to go into great detail about them, just that you can see they're two separate buildings, parking, repair garage. You can see some of the same things from the prior study, the 4 bays of repair garage, a sign shop, a welding shop, part storage, crew area, and then admin. And then the county has a similar layout, not as complex. They have more of a simplistic function of parking the trucks, their crew area, and superintendents here. And then we bring in the sheriff's component in here. So, and that's a sheriff parking area for their vehicles. So I'll just look back at that. That's what you're seeing here. And the blue is the sheriff's area. And then there's some more detail on what's all in the office area after we discussed with the city. Different from the prior one is we brought in all of engineering, all the public works administration would leave from here and go into this facility. So you'd have combined engineering and operations. And that's the close-up on the county area and then the sheriff's area. I'm going to jump back up. I probably should have put this here first, but option one allows for easy separation between the highway department and the public works. And this is going to become an issue. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a business consultant either. It's the next thing the city and county, if you continue discussing this, is how to manage and pay and whatever you're going to do to make this facility, joint facility work. But this facility allows for there to be a distinct building for the city and a distinct building for the county, so that there could be separate meters, separate cost accounting between the two, very clearly defined area. So we thought that could allow for a better separation of ownership if you actually literally drew a line of that's city land, that's county land around it. It helps, it has better site circulation. It does increase the building square footage a bit. Now you have this wall, you got an extra wall where once you brought it together, you got rid of that fourth wall. It shares all the truck wash, fueling, the scale, the bulk materials, so it's highly leveraged. And the county, the sheriff department is within the county building, but they're zoned so for security in their own corner. All right, so that's now this is the summary of square footage. We have a 74,000 city building. The county is 48, and then there's various shed buildings. Now, this is a cost summary. I do have here Kraus Anderson from Madison, and we pull them in because Kraus Anderson has done many garages, public works garages, and city county ones as well. And they provided us a cost breakdown. I'm just showing you a summary of that. If the council would like to dive in deeper, have more questions about the cost, we'll gladly have Kraus Anderson come up and run through their sheets on that. But overall, option one is a $35 million facility, $220 a square foot, it's 159,000 square feet. So we broke down the buildings and the cost of the site, $5 million per site. The main building for the city is 15, the county's is 10. There's various storage buildings, salt brine, truck wash costs. all of which you would have to work out on how to share, both in terms of construction and operation as well. So option two, actually there's two options for this, and this is a level integration 3 where the buildings are together. And you can see now they're slammed together, and it's similar. The only difference really is that gap between the two buildings. The yard is the same. The fueling, the flow, we thought out the flow of how we want the trucks to fuel at the end of the day, then wash, load their salt, or maybe they come in and load their salt, then wash. So it's been thought out. There's plenty of room to get the yard to operate very efficiently. So everything's in the right sequence as they drive in and out. And that's the combined building with I would almost a demising wall. And their floor plans, the overall building. And the cost is less on this, from 34, I think I have a summary at the end here, but I'm going to jump back, 35 to 34, so about a $900,000 difference, bringing the two together. And that's 159,000 square feet, $214 a square foot. And I will say we also do a lot of cost estimating. We do a lot of garages. That is the cost these days for a garage. About that is going rate overall for our facilities. So option 2B, the difference here is we pulled out the sheriff. So we had some discussion is maybe the sheriff needs more independence, more room, more security. Maybe we can use this parcel of land down here better and move the entrance up a little bit north on Galvin. It did shift the fueling, so the trucks come through here now and then pull in that way. So maybe that's more of a county discussion, but so we were looking at that, where to put the sheriff. Maybe they have their own defined building. So this doesn't affect the city except how the entrance is laid out. And see the, oops, sorry, that shouldn't be there. 2A. Similar building size, square footage, and then the building, it's about the same square footage cost. And then the final option that we're going to show is also it's a very shared facility where we have the locker rooms and lunchrooms are all shared. Crews from the highway and the city come in there in the morning. They'd have to define their own areas, but it'd be one locker area, one set of showers, one kitchenette, and assembly superintendents or supervisors would have to figure out their corners where they're going to meet with the crews in the morning. One common office area, but they might each go in a separate direction. What we did is there's a common area for the office, the locker room. There's no change in the repair garage, welding, or sign shop. In fact, we even discussed, you could mix up the parking even. While right now we're showing it all county and all city, it could be arranged to one big truck barn for the two agents. And this cube here came up later as some extra space. We could have teed it off here, but as we discussed, the county thought that'd be a good area for cold storage for tractors, mowers, small engines, things that come in during the different seasons, generators, signboards. So we decided to add that in. And detail on how to have the common entrance. County is one area, the city is another. So there's one entrance, but you go in different directions too. So it can be done. It's, I think, really more of an operations management issue. Do you want the crews together in the same locker, lunch area? And they're sharing a safety training area as well. Sheriff, the other end. So that is a less expensive option. So bringing the two, we don't duplicate a locker, we don't duplicate all the showers, kitchenette and the lunchroom. all the finish areas, all the hardware that goes with 2 different doors. I really think it's more a matter of operationally being all together, and that close quarters are, and again, I'm not an operations consultant in that way. But as an architect, though, we see that is the tightest arrangement. They're just blended. In option 3, that's the highest level integration that we set out to explore. Option 2A and B are a level 2. They're sharing the site and the building. They're kind of back to back. And then option 1 is kind of halfway between integration level 1 and 2. The buildings are pulled apart, so you can more readily define, okay, that's city, that's county area. And again, this is a concept. It's as we discussed and met, other things came up, and I think the more we met, the more we thought about it. And while we are going to recommend 1, initially we thought that the 2A concept, share the wall, fine, we'll get along and share that wall. And then as toward the end of the study, I thought, well, maybe concept 1, maybe better for apart. So I can see this is going to go back and forth. And I don't think you need to decide that now even. It's just that it's a healthy discussion. It's a long one. And my observations, that they were very productive discussions. And the groups want to work together, and what just in the long term, it works out for the best of the 2. So we did rank them and by which of the options produced the best traffic circulation patterns, sufficient cold storage, sufficient yard storage, the cost options, operationally, the best flow sequence of where everything needs to be. Do we have room for expansion on this? And then also look at how this impacts the greater area of this neighborhood, this business park, and is it beneficial? So they're all pretty high and close, but option 1 just came out a little higher at 39.2 and option 2 at 38. So again, this is something that it's so close, it's really up to the city and the county to keep pushing this discussion and examining it further. So we'll end the study here that at this point, we're recommending option 1, and that that would be beneficial to both the city and the county from an architectural facilities point of view. And what we recommend next is, at least from an architectural engineering point of view, is after you decided which approach is best, is to then move onto one of these options. They're very conceptual. Sit down again, talk with the city and the county staff, work out a lot more details on this, and start doing some preliminary engineering, the site design, utilities, site planning, approvals, hookups, explore the soils, and assess any environmental issues that might be on there, and take this further to city planning, maybe even community meetings, and develop a further level of cost definition. Because right now, Kraus-Anderson took our estimates off a plan diagram. We don't have any elevations or sections. We didn't say this is precast or these trusses are 50 feet long or 100 feet long. There's a lot more definition that needs to be done on this. And I'll say too, there's a lot of room with the cost too, because a lot of this will depend on what level of a garage you want in terms of, well, how many lifts do you want, like how many bulk fluid drills you want, do we, the truck wash, what kind of features. There's a lot of specifications that go into this. So there's plenty of room to work down what level of garage you want here. So that's the end of my formal presentations. And again, if you want to drill down to the costs, I've got Kraus-Anderson here. So I will stop here right now.
Okay, so there's no recommended action for tonight, it's just for information. Item D is a discussion and questions from the council members and Wood County officials. So we'll open the floor up to discussion, and I guess get my attention somehow, raising your hands. Mr. Butke, I can see you're raring to go.
Thank you. One of the problems that we had over the years is space for expansion for future years? I know that's a bigger site, but is there quite a bit of room for expansion for both entities?
There
They
is.
don't run into the same problems in a few years.
Take option one. Yes, there is, although it's mainly cold storage, shed area that you have area for. So we were thinking another cold storage building could go here in this area. The site could expand out this way, but we'd have to realign the fuel station, the truck scale to another, truck wash into another area. So that's an area that typically garages outgrow is the heated parking area. So there is, we could expand this about another 15%, but otherwise my vision is aligning another cold storage building out on the site for both the county and the city.
Yeah, I guess I would question the cold storage without talking to our people. If that's what we need, more cold storage or what, that's all got to be discussed.
Could be tempered,
But
it's mildly.
Again, I've seen over the years, I've just seen too many instances where we didn't plan for the future.
Mhm.
We want to make sure we're spending.
That's a good point.
Either way, we're going to spend a bunch of money if we got to do it right, whatever that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Witzel?
Thank you. A couple quick questions. Going off of what Mr. Butke mentioned, would it be feasible to take that building and rotate it 90 degrees so that if there needed to be extension, it could go out into the space that is open? I mean,
That's a good.
it seems to me that trucks don't get smaller. We would need more storage for the trucks. The fleet's not going to get smaller. So it would make sense to me to make it in a configuration that could expand the garage more than the cold storage. But besides that, I did have a couple other quick questions. If you could go back to the costs slide that shows the comparative.
Oh, the very bottom one
Yeah,
that I had there.
thank you. So the total costs you have here, is this for the total site development or merely for the building?
Site and building, everything. It including CM fees, architect fees, engineering.
I guess I'm a little
Total
surprised that 2B is cheaper when you have a separate building for the sheriff department. It would seem to me like if you're pulling a building off and developing a separate building, that the cost would be higher than a 2A building where it's incorporated in. But that's why I was wondering if these were total site analysis or just the main building analysis.
It's everything. Any comment on that, Seth?
People on Zoom
Yeah,
can't
could I
hear
just
you.
have you step up to the podium?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people off-site. Sorry.
2B, I mean, you still have the same structure, you still have the same footing, and you're building the same building. I mean, you're just moving program space from one area to another. So if it's attached to the building or we pull it off to where it's shown on 2B, we're still building the same building.
Okay. I guess the only other question I had, and I don't know if this is something anybody in the room here can answer or not, but to me, it seems like between concept one and concept 2A, which are essentially the same except they're smushed together, that operationally there'd be maybe a slight benefit. Heating costs, for example, if you have a shared wall, I would think your efficiency would be slightly better. Do we have any kind of analysis on an efficiency cost? Because it's one thing to put up a awesome garage, or in this case, maybe a couple garages, but it's also long-term costs to run that. Do we have any analysis on that?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, just to maybe touch on a couple things related to your last question and this one. Like Norman mentioned, at this point, a lot of this stuff is relatively high level.
Mhm.
The points about can we flip buildings and things like that, those are all good discussions to have. The basis we use to generate a lot of this cost is based on historical data. So we would go back into our project files and say, okay, this is based on, here are the attributes of these facilities. What do we have similar that we've built in the past? We time and location that stuff to, this location, this year, knowing what we're up against. In certain aspects, if you took concept one of the big differentiators in cost, and say if you went to 2B is, you only have to bring one electrical service to the building instead of the separate. You only have to do one storm sewer. So, you know what I mean? There's any number of those factors that kind of play in. You're eliminating the wall or adding a wall, which may change the roof structures, how you drain things, et cetera. So I think that's just kind of at least a high level overview of, we start with the base knowing that everything's similar based on project cost. And then at this stage, we just have to tweak based on what we see for quantities and pieces of parts that are in.
So with that in mind, and historically speaking, efficiency-wise, is it better to have the two totally separate buildings, or from an efficiency perspective, even just thinking heating cost, would it be more efficient to have a single building with that shared wall?
Yeah, I would say our experience in the construction industry would tell you that from an economic standpoint, to heat, maintain, utilize all those attributes of the building, there's probably savings.
Okay.
With the combined. The part you'll have to further understand is what your operational components are from probably more of a different view.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mrs. Spiros?
Maybe this was said at the beginning, I'm not sure, but how in depth did these discussions go between our city officials and our county officials? Was this has this been going on? And because I guess I don't know what the opinion is of, I'm looking at, because I'm here with the city, I'm looking at the city people who would be affected and working in this garage, and I'm just kind of wondering if we can start to hear some of their opinions, or is this not the right time to start hearing what their thoughts are? And as well as I'd like to hear the counties too, but we'll start with the city.
Thank you for the question. We've had several meetings along the way here with county staff. Most of the guys sitting in this room have been together at the same table. And we've had some of our other assistant supervisors from the street department who are not here tonight, who have been part of the discussion. And we've gotten feedback from other staff on this. And to be honest, we're all pretty excited about the possibility here. We share resources now to some degree with certain equipment and on operations that we've done. You might recall the mastic track filling thing we did this past fall with county forces and city forces working together. So we already have a great working relationship with county folks, and this just takes it to a new level. But I think we see the synergies that can happen by a joint site, the shared resources, and the bottom line is we can get more out of this working together than we could if we were on our own. So that's a high level answer. It's not the guys in the trenches answering the question, but from what I see, there's a lot to be gained.
So Dan, with that being said, I kind of thought that was going to be your answer, that you guys were all on board. Do you have a preference between 1, 2A, 2B,
Well,
C, whatever?
like a lot of things, the devil's in the details. And I think we have a lot of work to do to figure out how this shared agreement would work out, and who owns what, and how do the costs get split up and that kind of thing. And today, my perspective is this: today we have a great working relationship. I could sit down with Roland and we could come up with a solution for whatever problems we might face. But do we know that's always going to be the case working between city and county officials? I'm not sure we always know that. So to some degree, we have to set this up so that if relationships sour, the arrangements still work. And that's where option one, as Norman mentioned, gives us that, better set. Operationally, as we heard, a single building does a lot for both sides to keep costs down and improve some efficiencies. But those are the kind of details we have to sort through and see if we can come to some kind of agreement on how all that would.
Can I continue? Thank you. Sheriff Becker, can I ask you a couple of questions? Then you gotta come up here though. So the main thing that stuck out to me in regards to whether we have y'all on the property or not is that there was a statement he made about the security.
Mhm.
So do you have any input on that, or what's your general thought about this?
Well, first off, this wasn't my idea to jump on board with the combined facility. It came from staff. The deputies that are working out of our north office in the Norwood building had heard about this. We had heard about the combined facility, and we thought, hey, that could be an opportunity for us to move to a different location that would be much more of a better location for us. Response time out in the county, location was better. Now, safety and security of the site, you have to look at it this way. The Sheriff's Department North Office is run 24/7. It's 24 hours a day. So we will have people not in the building all the time, but most of the time. So you add that facet to the project, I think it really makes sense for us, all right, to jump on board with this. Like I said, it came from our staff. The deputies, investigators that are working out of our north office a lot, heard of the project, and I floated it by our commissioner, our highway commissioner, and here we are. So asking what preference we would have, we're just happy to be here, to be honest.
Okay.
But yeah.
And is there anyone from the county that wants to add anything, or highway commissioner? I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
I'm Roland Hawk, the highway commissioner, and I was very excited when this came to our attention because we actually were trying to put together a plan just to build another updated building because our current building does not have women's facilities, adequate break room, locker room, that kind of stuff. And it wasn't designed that way to begin with. It was really supposed to be a satellite shop for about 6 people. And over the last decade, we have closed 2 other highway shops because of efficiencies in how we operate. So we consolidated now to the Marshfield site and our Rapid site. So we were looking at ways to making some improvements when it came to our attention. The city was looking to find a location where they could locate. And so we just started this conversation and it grew to what it is. And when we started this, I stepped back and I gave my superintendents and some staff the opportunity to meet with Norman and put their thoughts to it first because I'm not a patrolman. I don't plow roads. I don't mow ditches. I don't know a lot about how the equipment runs. So in order for us to build a facility and incorporate those things, I wanted the folks that do that firsthand to have the opportunity to meet with the architect and plan that. Then I became involved with the city staff to talk more about how we share the resources and the rest of it and become more of a project. And I don't have a preference whether it's 1 or 2 and whether we, do it all jointly together right away. But the thing that I got out of this as we worked through this was a lot of my staff are city residents, and they believe that this was a good opportunity for us to share a site, share resources, and don't duplicate things that are sitting in the same municipal boundary. And we can do this in a way, I think, maybe in steps, so the burden isn't as bad. And having the sheriff's department involved with us, we felt was an excellent way to move forward because the space we're putting together isn't a lot compared to what the city staff is putting together. So it would give them an opportunity to merge in with us and build a better project.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, Council President. I have a few questions. One of my, I'll say this, one thing I don't want to see is us doing too much duplication if we don't have to. And so whenever you can find efficiencies, I think that's good. Now, I do understand though the concept of having separate spaces and buildings. I guess my question is, has there been any discussion about even building this? Because we don't even know if the county or city is going to say yes to this, or if we're both going to say yes. Has there been any discussion about, let's say the city jumps at this first, building one of the sites first? How would that work? I just want to get some feedback if there have been any discussions between county, city officials, if yourself, and what thoughts there are if that were to happen. Who wants to jump at that?
Well, I will say this option one does allow for it to be phased. So that obviously you can see they could do two different construction packages. You could issue it out. City does their construction bid package, the county does theirs. Somehow you work out a joint site development package. And I will say, just comment back on, if you did this separately, that $5 million site cost, you probably each would be paying $3 and $3 million. You'd spend $6 million separately, and now if you do it together, you're like,
And I was pretty sure you were going to say that. So, I mean, there is a benefit to us doing this together.
yeah.
My concern is we don't always deal in the perfect. So I want to know, worst case, what that's going to look. Dan, do you have an opinion?
Yeah, we've been speculating all along as who's going to be ready to go first on this, and I don't think the answer is clear yet. But we do know that it can be staged, and as one agency's plans become clearer, they could move ahead without waiting for the other one, what we believe can happen here. So what the timeline is, we'll have to all sort that out, but I don't think it hampers one side or the other if we're on the shared site, because of the way we have this laid out. We could each move ahead at our own schedule.
One follow-up question is, are there any funding options for this? I'm thinking grants, anything that would be available that you're aware of?
I haven't explored that yet. We know that there are ARPA funds out there that can be used for a variety of things. We know there's a very large infrastructure bill that's being rolled out right now. We'll look for opportunities in that, but as of right now, I don't have anything.
Mr. Handler.
Thank you. I think since all these discussions have taken place and no firm conclusions have been made, but I do like the fact that we ought to take this thought out of its infancy and get to something more specific. I like the idea of sharing. I think there's a benefit for both of us in the southern part of the county and here. And I do like to take advantage of it. But the details, I think, are in the, well, you know where the details are. But I think we should continue this dialogue to come to something more specific than what we're talking tonight. If, from my personal standpoint, if you ask me, I think this is an excellent idea, whoever had this. I think the city can benefit, the county can benefit, and we're going to save the taxpayers some money instead of taking a lone shot at it ourselves. Thank you.
Oh, Lance, do you or anyone else from the county board have any comments?
Thank you, and I really don't want to reiterate a lot of what was said. And this started as a concept of, does the county have some land that might be available for the city to build a facility? And that's where it started. And the answer was yes. And then as that conversation expands and it grows, we started to realize some of those symbiotic advantages that might occur through this. And, you know, we have a need, you obviously have a need. And I personally like concept one because it lets development occur in stages as we go. Because I don't know if it was Mr. Fisher who said it or Mrs. Spiros, but I'm not sure who's ready to go first, how that may occur, but there's certainly savings in fuel stations, in washes, in having the same site. And then there's the ability to share some of those responsibilities as they come up. I mean, if you got somebody right next door to you, you can ask them to do something for you. I mean, that's an advantage. So to Mr. Hendler's point, I think we ought to continue the conversation and see where it goes. I think we're on the right path. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I want to start wrapping up because we have another meeting at 6 o'clock. But there's any more questions, Mr. Fisher?
I just have one final question. What I would like to know from staff, both at the city and county, is what do you see as the next step? What do you need from us tonight? What is the next step?
I'm not going to speak for the city, but from my perspective, this was an introduction to my highway committee and county board members to see where we've been the last year. I'm going to be bringing this to my committee in the next month and asking them to provide me the opportunity to move forward with negotiating with the city and I'm assuming our architects yet to find a next step that's really logistically going to give us an idea of what the city's portion of this might be cost-wise and what the county's going to be. And then maybe narrow down the step, picking out one of the concepts. That's what I'm going to be asking my committee for. Oh, Dan, you want to, same thing?
Yeah, my answer is similar. I guess, of course, there's no action being asked for tonight, but I would bring this back to our Public Works Committee or maybe the council as a whole, if you prefer that. But really to get your blessing to continue moving forward with this. And I think Norman laid out some next steps as far as planning the site, but I think we also need to factor in the discussion and kind of build a framework for what this agreement might look like and to be sure we can come to some terms on how the sharing of costs would happen on a site like this before we spend a lot more money on site planning and engineering and so forth. We'd like to make sure that the framework of an agreement works as we move ahead. So that I would see the same kind of time frame in the next month to have this on another agenda as an action item to get direction to move ahead or not, if that's correct.
Tom? Go ahead.
And I think it's a good ending thing here, but when I walked in and I see Sheriff Becker back there, and I did not know that they were looking at a site, which I think is a great idea, by the way. But I thought you were refereeing to come to an agreement, and Mr. Winch and Mr. Handler were going to arm wrestle, and you were going to oversee that. But I really like the idea, though, to work together.
Okay. Anything else for questions or comments? I want to thank everyone who came and shared tonight and listened. And I guess the next item on our agenda is a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Spiros, second. Mr. Butke. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.